Hello, I'm Tyler Harp. I am the technical product lead for our row crop fungicide portfolio. And today I've been handed a list of the most common questions out there about fungicide use in corn and soybeans. So let's begin. Question number 1, is a premium fungicide actually worth it this season? Well, I guess that to answer that question, I'm going to ask you a question. Is it worth getting the most yield potential out of your fungicide application? Because if it is, then it is important to use a premium fungicide, because the premium fungicides today preserve considerably more yield potential than the fungicides from the past. We like to say these are not your father's or your grandfather's fungicides. Okay? Question number 2, what is the best timing for fungicide application on corn and soybeans? Well, in Syngenta, we've done years and years of data to really try to understand how the grower can get the most out of these fungicide applications. And what we found is that in corn, anywhere between sort of late vegetative to R1 timing is that sweet spot, because the most important leaves happen to be emerged during that time that you want to make sure you're protecting with the fungicide application. Not only to prevent against diseases, because we do see long-lasting potent disease control, but also against environmental stresses like heat and drought. And for soybeans, it's a little bit later in the reproductive stage, say between R2 and R4, but that's because, again, what you want to do is you want to target the most important leaves and have those emerged that are going to contribute to getting the most yield preservation out of that application. Okay, next question. Should I spray a fungicide even if I don't see visible disease symptoms? So if you make a fungicide application, we would recommend making it before you saw any visible signs of disease, because you're going to get the most out of that fungicide application when it's applied preventatively, before the disease epidemic occurs in your crop. That's how you're going to be able to preserve most of your yield potential. You really want that fungicide there to protect that plant against future diseases that might come in and be yield limiting to that crop. Okay, moving right along. Should I see the same value of a fungicide application in soybeans as I do in corn? Absolutely. You know, we talk a lot about fungicide use in corn. We see really good results in our corn trials, but we also see equally good results in our soybean trials. And we've done a lot of work over the last 8 seasons to show and demonstrate how a Syngenta plant health fungicide can preserve yields not only in corn, but also in soybeans. You know, even in the northern part of the Corn Belt, we don't see a lot of leaf spot disease on soybeans, maybe some white mold, but it's typically more of a stress mitigation application, and we see really good plant health benefits. And what we find when a premium fungicide like Miravis Neo is used in your soybeans, that you're going to get between 6 and 8 bushels per acre over untreated, and about a third of those is going to be over 10 bushels per acre. So absolutely, it's very important to remember that not only corn are responding to these fungicides, but we get really good yield potential and really good plant health results with the same fungicides on soybeans as well. All right, next question. Are all modes of action creative equal? No, they're not. So most of the fungicides that are in the market today contain 2 or maybe 3 different modes of action. And within those modes of action, there are differences within the chemical classes that represent those modes of action. So for example, we always like to say that not all carboxamide SDHI fungicides are created equal, because some of them have different levels of persistence and different levels of the ability to have long-lasting activity based on their chemical profile. So some are more water-soluble than others, and the more water-soluble it is, the quicker it can be degraded in the plant. So we specifically design our fungicide active ingredients to differentiate them over other fungicide active ingredients that have the same mode of action, essentially by tweaking the chemical class that represents that mode of action and getting the best value out of that mode of action possible, such as persistence and the ever important stress mitigation. Okay, and finally, one last question, and it's a tar spot question. If tar spot is already visible, am I too late? No, you're not too late, but you need to be thinking about protecting your crop from what can be a really devastating disease in tar spot. Tar spot typically comes in really aggressive late in the development cycle of the crop, and so it's important to have that fungicide that's going to get long-lasting and preserve that crop from that disease late throughout the season. And I think that's all the questions. So with that, I'll get rid of that. And if you have a question, I'm happy to answer that one too. Just let us know.